The painting arrived this morning in a crate worth more than my car. 2 men in white gloves carried it into my living room like they were handling the Mona Lisa. "Careful," one whispered to the other. "This is an original Richardson." Richardson, my last name, my daughter's name, the name I'd once told her she was dishonoring with her finger-painting hobby. "Where would you like it displayed, Mr. Richardson?" the lead installer asked, his voice reverent. I pointed to the wall with shaking hands. The same wall where her childhood drawings once hung before I tore them down in a rage, declaring our house a home, not a kindergarten. As they unveiled the canvas, my knees nearly buckled. It was magnificent, haunting. A masterpiece that seemed to pulse with all the pain I'd caused, all the words I couldn't take back. "You're Emma Richardson's father?" the younger installer asked, eyes wide. "You must be so proud. Her work sells for—" "I know what it sells for." I cut him off, my voice rough. What he didn't know, what no one knew, was that 3 years ago I'd banned this same daughter from my 40th anniversary party, that I'd called her art cheap junk and told her she was an embarrassment to the family name. And now I was paying 6 figures to buy back what I'd once thrown in the garbage. Emma came into this world painting, not literally, of course, but Margaret swears our daughter's first coherent movement was trying to finger paint with her mashed peas. Where other babies reached for toys, Emma reached for crayons, markers, anything that could make a mark on the world. "She's going to be an artist," Margaret had said when Emma was barely 3, watching our daughter turn sidewalk chalk into a rainbow that stopped neighbours in their tracks. "She's going to be a doctor," I'd corrected. "Or a lawyer. Something respectable." That was the beginning of our war, though I didn't know it then. By age 5, Emma could draw better than most adults. Her kindergarten teacher had pulled us aside, voice hushed with awe. "I've never seen anything like it. She has a gift." "All children draw," I'd dismissed. "She'll grow out of it." But she didn't grow out of it. She grew into it. Every surface in our house became her canvas. Napkins, newspapers, the backs of my business documents if I wasn't careful. I'd find her under the dining table, sketching our feet during dinner parties. In church, she'd draw the stained glass windows on donation envelopes. "Look, Daddy," she'd beam, showing me a portrait she'd drawn of me reading my newspaper. It was eerily accurate. The furrow in my brow, the way I held my coffee cup. She'd captured something I didn't even know about myself. "Very nice," I'd say, already folding it into the trash when she wasn't looking. "Now go practice your multiplication tables." David, her older brother, understood the assignment. Straight A's, soccer captain, debate team president. He collected achievements like baseball cards, each one earning my approval, my pride. Emma collected pencil shavings and paint-stained clothes. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became my refrain. "Because I'm not David," she'd answer, chin jutted out in defiance that both infuriated and secretly impressed me. The first real clash came in middle school. Emma had been selected for a prestigious summer art program, 2 weeks with master artists, full scholarship based on her portfolio. She'd been ecstatic, dancing around the kitchen with the acceptance letter. "I'm not signing this," I'd announced after reading the details. Her face had crumpled. "But Dad, it's free, and it's such an honor." "It's 2 weeks you could spend in academic camp, or sports camp. Something that matters for college applications." "Art matters," she'd protested, tears streaming. "It matters to me. And what matters to me is your future. No daughter of mine is going to waste her potential playing with paint." Margaret had fought me that night, our first real fight about Emma. "You're crushing her spirit, Richard." "I'm saving her from herself," I'd insisted. "Artists don't make money. They don't have stability. They end up teaching high school or waiting tables, bitter about their failed dreams." "Is that what you think? That following your passion means failure?" "I think passion doesn't pay mortgages." Emma had gone to math camp that summer. She'd been obedient, completed every equation, earned her certificate. but something in her eyes had dimmed, like I'd turned off a light that would never quite shine the same way again. High school brought new battles. Emma's art teacher, Mrs. Chen, became my nemesis, a woman who filled my daughter's head with possibilities and potential. "Your daughter could get into any art school in the country," she told us during parent conferences. RISD, Parsons, CalArts. With her talent, she'd have her pick. "She's going to a real university," I'd said flatly, "for a real degree." Mrs. Chen had looked at me like I'd slapped her. "Mr. Richardson, do you understand how rare Emma's gift is? I've been teaching for 30 years and I've never— I understand that you're encouraging her to throw her life away. Good day." Emma had been waiting in the hallway. She'd heard everything. "Dad," she'd said quietly in the car, "what if I double major, business and art? What if you focus on reality instead of fantasy?" She'd turned to stare out the window, and we'd driven home in silence that felt like a preview of our future. The acceptance letters had been the next battlefield. Emma had secretly applied to art schools along with the traditional universities I'd approved. When the acceptances came, full rides to RISD and Parsons, partial scholarships everywhere else, she'd laid them out on the dining room table like evidence in a trial. "I can go for free," she'd said. "You wouldn't have to pay anything." "You're not going to art school. Why?" The word had exploded out of her. "Why do you hate this part of me so much?" "I don't hate it. I'm trying to protect you from it. There's a difference." "Protect me from what? From being happy? From doing what I love? From being a failure?" I'd slammed my hand on the table, making the acceptance letters jump. "From being 30 and broke and realizing you wasted your chance at a real life?" "Like you," she'd shot back, "stuck in a job you hate, coming home miserable every day, living through David's achievements because you gave up on your own dreams." The silence that followed was deafening. Margaret had gasped. David had frozen mid-bite at dinner. "Go to your room," I'd said, voice deadly quiet. "Dad, I didn't mean— go." She'd gathered her acceptance letters, her dreams, and fled. Later, Margaret told me Emma had cried herself to sleep. The RISD acceptance clutched to her chest like a lifeline she wasn't allowed to grab. Emma went to State University, business major, as I'd demanded, but she'd minored in art, a compromise I'd grudgingly allowed after Margaret threatened to leave me over it. "You're destroying our daughter," she'd said, "and I won't stand by and watch." So Emma had gotten her minor, small victories in a war where everyone was losing. Before we dive into the moment that shattered our family forever, I have a small request. We're on a journey to reach 1,000 subscribers, and without your support, it won't be possible. Please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Here's a question for you. Have you ever had someone dismiss your passion as worthless? How did you prove them wrong? Or if you've been the one dismissing someone's dreams, what made you realize your mistake? And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. The anniversary party that changed everything is coming up, and the truth is more shocking than you can imagine. Let's get back to the story. The week before our 40th anniversary, I was riding high. The party planning was perfect. Ice sculptures, 5-course meal, 150 of our closest friends and business associates. It would be the social event of the season, proof of our success, our stability, our perfect family. Then Emma called. "Dad, I need to tell you something exciting." Her voice had that breathless quality it got when she was truly happy, rare these days. "Make it quick. I'm reviewing the seating chart. I just got accepted to show at the Meridian Gallery in New York. Do you know what this means? They've exhibited Basquiat, Haring. Emma, I don't have time for this." "But Dad, this is huge. Career-changing. And it's perfect timing because I wanted to ask, could I display just a few pieces at the anniversary party? Mum said the country club has this amazing gallery wall and I thought, absolutely not. The silence stretched between us. Not even one piece? I painted something special for you and Mom. Emma, stop. I'd rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building. This is our anniversary, not your personal art show. I'm already dealing with enough embarrassment. Embarrassment? Do you know what people say when I tell them my daughter quit her marketing job to paint? They give me these looks, pity, confusion. Poor Richard, they think. His daughter is one of those delusional artists. I'm not delusional. I sold 12 pieces last month. I'm paying my rent, my bills. Barely scraping by isn't success, Emma. It's survival, and I didn't raise you to just survive. You raised me to be miserable in a cubicle. I raised you to be stable, secure, respected. I am respected. By collectors, by galleries, by people who don't matter. The words had burst out before I could stop them. Your little art world friends and gallery owners looking to make a quick buck off naive art. They don't matter. And your country club friends do? Yes, because they're successful. They've built things, real things, companies, practices, portfolios, not finger paintings. I'd heard her sharp intake of breath. When she spoke again, her voice was dangerously quiet. Is that really what you think of my work? Finger paintings? I think you're talented, Emma. But talent without practical application is just expensive hobby, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Then don't. What? Don't pretend. Tell everyone at your party exactly what you think. That your daughter is a failure, an embarrassment, a delusional artist playing with finger paints. Emma, or better yet, I just won't come. Save you the trouble of explaining me. Something in her tone made my chest tighten, but pride pushed me forward. Maybe that's for the best. I'm exhausted from making excuses for your choices. My choices? She'd laughed, but it was bitter, broken. You mean my life? My career? My happiness? Your stubbornness. Your refusal to see reality. I see reality perfectly clearly, Dad. I see a father who'd rather have a miserable daughter in a suit than a happy one with paint-stained hands. I see a man so terrified of anything unconventional that he'd crush his own child's spirit rather than risk judgment from strangers. If that's what you think, it's what I know. And you know what? Keep your perfect party. Keep your perfect image. I'll keep my cheap junk art and my delusional dreams. Emma, wait. But she'd already hung up. Margaret had found me sitting at my desk an hour later, still holding the phone. What did you do? She'd asked, seeing my face. I think I uninvited Emma to the anniversary party. You what? I'd explained, trying to justify it, but each word sounded worse out loud. Margaret had listened in growing horror. She offered to bring a painting she made for us, I'd finished weakly. I told her we didn't need her cheap junk. Margaret had stared at me for a long moment. Then very quietly, I don't know who you are anymore. The party had been perfect technically. Everything had gone according to plan. But Margaret's smile never reached her eyes. David's speech had carefully avoided mentioning his sister. And I'd spent the entire evening fielding questions about Emma's absence with increasingly elaborate lies. Big exhibition in Europe, I'd said. Couldn't reschedule. You know how it is. But inside her words echoed. Cheap junk, cheap junk, cheap junk. The next morning, a delivery truck had pulled up. One package, addressed to both of us. Margaret had been at her sister's. She'd started spending more time there lately, so I'd opened it alone. Inside was a painting that stole my breath. It wasn't just a portrait. It was our entire life together, layered and woven like memories themselves. Every brushstroke told a story, our wedding day bleeding into David's birth, flowing into Emma's first drawing on the refrigerator. The technique was masterful, professional, museum quality. At the bottom, a small card. Happy 40th anniversary. May your love continue to grow. Emma. I'd stood there in my garage, holding this masterpiece, this gift of love despite everything, and felt something crack inside me. But instead of breaking down, I'd done something worse. I'd wrapped it back up, walked to the garbage bin, and thrown it away. Just some marketing materials, I'd told Margaret when she'd asked about the delivery. But that night, I'd lain awake thinking about Emma's hands creating each brushstroke, pouring love into something I'd called cheap junk. I'd gotten up at 3 a.m. and gone to retrieve it, but the garbage truck had already come. It was gone. Like my daughter. Like my soul. The months after the anniversary became a masterclass in losing everything while pretending nothing was wrong. Margaret had somehow discovered the truth about the painting. I suspected she'd called Emma directly, and our marriage entered its darkest period. "You threw away our anniversary gift." She'd stood in our bedroom doorway, suitcase in hand. "A painting our daughter made with love, and you put it in the trash?" "Margaret, No more words. I've listened to your words for 40 years, watched you systematically destroy our daughter's confidence, her joy, her spirit. But throwing away that painting, that's not just cruel, Richard. That's evil. Evil. That's dramatic. Is it? Tell me, what kind of man takes his child's heart and puts it in a garbage bin?" She'd moved to her sister's that night. Not divorced, not separated officially, just gone. The house felt cavernous without her, echoing with all the arguments we'd never resolve. David had been equally brutal in his assessment. "Do you understand what you've done?" he'd asked during one of our increasingly rare lunches. "Emma's not just successful, Dad. She's becoming legendary. That gallery in New York? They're comparing her to Basquiat. Museums are bidding on her work." How was I supposed to know? By looking. By attending even one show. By opening your eyes to something beyond your narrow definition of success. He'd pulled out his phone, showing me article after article. Emma's pieces selling for $30,000, $50,000, one for $100,000 to a private collector. Reviews that used words like generational talent and revolutionary voice. Photos of her at gallery openings, surrounded by admirers, glowing with the confidence I'd tried to extinguish. "She did all this without you," David had said quietly. "But she did it carrying the weight of your rejection. Do you know what her latest series is called? Invisible. It's about being unseen by the people who should see you most clearly." I'd started cyberstalking my own daughter. Late nights scrolling through her Instagram, watching videos of her artist talks, reading every interview. She never mentioned me by name, but I was there in the negative space, the absence that shaped her work. "My art comes from pain transformed," she told one interviewer. "I learned early that not everyone will understand your vision. Sometimes the people you most want to impress are the ones least capable of seeing you." Another interview, when asked about her family. "My mother is my biggest supporter. She taught me that love isn't conditional on achievement. It just is." No mention of her father. I'd been erased as thoroughly as I'd tried to erase her art. The house became a museum of my mistakes. Emma's childhood drawings, rescued from boxes in the attic, now seemed like prophecies I'd been too blind to read. Every crayon scribble was evidence of the talent I'd dismissed. Every "Dad, look what I made," echoed in empty rooms. Margaret would visit, brief cold exchanges to collect mail or retrieve belongings. Each time she looked at me like a stranger. "I saw Emma last week," she'd mention casually, knowing it would wound me. "Her new series is breathtaking. She's exploring themes of rejection and redemption." "How is she?" I'd ask, pride crumbling just enough to let desperation through. "Thriving. Without you." The words were surgical in their precision. Margaret had learned after 40 years exactly where to cut. I'd started visiting galleries, anonymously, baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses indoors like some ridiculous spy. I'd stand in back corners, watching people react to Emma's work with the awe I'd never shown, listening to docents explain her technique, her vision. her meteoric rise. Richardson emerged from nowhere, one guide told a tour group at the Modern Art Museum. She credits her success to learning to trust her own vision despite early discouragements. Early discouragements. Is that what I'd been reduced to? A footnote in her origin story? One night, drunk on whiskey and regret, I'd called her old number. It was disconnected. I'd tried her email, bounced back. She'd erased me as thoroughly as I'd tried to erase her passion. She's protecting herself, David had explained when I'd begged him for her new contact information. You need to understand, Dad. You didn't just criticize her art. You rejected her soul. That's not something a simple apology can fix. Then what can? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe you have to live with this. Living with it was agony. Every morning I'd wake to walls that once held her drawings, now bare as accusations. Every evening I'd sit in a house that felt more like a mausoleum, a monument to the family I'd destroyed with my rigid definitions of success. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, forwarded by David with a note. Dad, you need to see this. Maybe there's hope. It was a press release for Emma's new exhibition. Kintsugi, the art of broken things made whole, at the Whitmore Gallery in New York. The centerpiece, according to the description, was a recreation of a destroyed painting, rebuilt with gold veins running through the cracks. My hands shook as I read her artist's statement. This piece represents a gift rejected, a love dismissed, a connection severed by pride. But in the Japanese art of kintsugi, broken pottery is repaired with gold, making it more beautiful for having been broken. This painting, once thrown away by someone who couldn't see its value, has been resurrected not as accusation, but as possibility. Even the deepest wounds can become veins of gold if we're brave enough to heal them. She was talking about the anniversary painting, the one I'd thrown away. She'd recreated it from me. Maury turned my cruelty into art. I booked a flight that night. The gallery was packed when I arrived. Art collectors, critics, young artists seeking inspiration. And there, in the center of it all, was Emma, my daughter, commanding the room with a presence I'd never allowed myself to see. She was radiant, confident, everything I'd said she'd never be. I stayed hidden in the back as she began her artist talk. This exhibition is about transformation, she said, her voice carrying the authority I'd tried to deny her. About taking rejection and turning it into fuel. About understanding that sometimes the people who hurt us most are operating from their own fears. She moved to the centerpiece, the reconstructed painting. Even from across the room I could see it was magnificent. The cracks filled with gold didn't hide the damage. They celebrated it, made it part of the story. This painting was originally created as an anniversary gift, Emma continued. It was thrown away, unseen, by someone who called it cheap junk. For years I let those words define me. But I've learned that other people's inability to see your worth doesn't diminish it. It just means they need better glasses. A ripple of laughter through the crowd. I pulled my cap lower. The person who threw this away isn't a villain, she said, and my heart stopped. They're a human being trapped by their own definitions of success, their own fears of judgment. I've spent years angry at them. But anger is just another kind of prison. So this piece isn't about revenge. It's about release. It's about saying, your rejection doesn't define me, but my response to it does. The crowd erupted in applause. I stood frozen, watching my daughter, this accomplished, graceful woman, speak about pain I'd caused with more maturity than I'd ever shown. After the talk, I waited. The crowd thinned. Emma was speaking with the last few collectors when she saw me. Her face went through, which a series of emotions, shock, anger, sadness, and finally something like resignation. Dad! Not a question, just acknowledgement. Emma. My voice cracked. The painting, it's extraordinary. It always was. You just couldn't see it. I know. I know. We stood there, feet apart but years between us. Finally, I pulled out an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "A check. For the painting. I want to buy it." Her eyes flashed. "You want to buy the painting you threw in the garbage?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I was wrong. Because it's magnificent. Because you're magnificent. Because I'm a fool who measured success in dollars instead of dreams. And I need to own my mistake. Literally." She looked at the check. Her eyes widened at the amount. Everything I had in savings. "This is too much," she said quietly. "No, it's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's what I have." "I don't want your money, Dad." "Then what do you want?" She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "I want you to see me. Really see me. Not the daughter you wanted, but the one you have." "I see you," I whispered. "I see an artist. A visionary. A woman who built beauty from pain I caused. I see someone I don't deserve to call daughter, but am desperate to know again." Tears ran down both our faces. The gallery was empty now, just us and the art that had divided us. "The painting's not for sale," she said finally. "But I'll make you a deal. Come to my studio next week. Watch me work. Learn who I really am. And maybe we can build something new. Like kintsugi. Broken but repaired with something precious." "I'd like that," I managed. She nodded, turned to go, then looked back. "Oh, and Dad, that painting you threw away? I lied. I never recreated it from memory. I pulled it out of your garbage that night. I've had it all along. This," she gestured to the masterpiece on the wall, "is something entirely new, something that could only exist because of what happened. Sometimes destruction is just another kind of beginning. That was a year ago. The painting hangs in my living room now, not the one from the gallery, but a new piece Emma created just for me. It shows two figures, backs turned to each other, slowly turning around. Meeting in the middle. It's called Reconciliation in Progress. Because that's what we are, in progress." Every Wednesday, I sit in her studio watching her work. I've learned the names of pigments, the difference between brushes, the way light changes everything. I've learned that my daughter doesn't just paint. She translates emotion into color, trauma into beauty, silence into song. Margaret came home last month. "I hear you've been taking art lessons," she said, unpacking her suitcase. "Life lessons," I corrected, "taught by our daughter." The wall that once held Emma's childhood drawings now displays her professional work. Visitors stop and stare, amazed. "Where did you find these?" they ask. "I didn't find them," I tell them. "I almost lost them. But sometimes, if you're very lucky, what you throw away comes back transformed." Emma's success has continued to soar. Museums compete for her work. Collectors wait years for commissions. But every month she creates one small piece just for us. Not for sale, not for show, just for the parents learning to see her. Last week, at her latest opening, someone asked her about her inspiration. "My father," she said, finding me in the crowd. "He taught me that rejection can be a gift if you let it transform you instead of define you. He also taught me that it's never too late to learn to see beauty in forms you don't understand." To anyone watching who's dismissed someone's dreams as impractical or embarrassing, look again. Look harder. What seems like cheap junk to you might be priceless to the world. And more importantly, it's priceless to them. And to those whose passions have been dismissed, keep creating, keep believing. Your worth isn't determined by others' ability to see it. Sometimes the greatest revenge is simply succeeding on your own terms. But the greatest gift? It's not revenge at all. It's the moment when someone finally sees you for who you really are and says the words that matter most. "I was wrong. You were always enough." Thank you for watching this deeply personal story. If it touched your heart, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and every single subscription helps us share more stories of redemption and reconciliation. Please hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had your passion dismissed as worthless? Or have you been the one doing the dismissing? What opened your eyes? The biggest lesson from my story is this: success isn't one size fits all. When we force our definitions onto others, we risk losing them entirely. Art, music, writing, crafts, these aren't just hobbies or distractions. For many, they're callings, and dismissing them is dismissing the person's very soul. Remember, it's never too late to admit you were wrong, and it's never too late to start seeing people for who they truly are, not who you think they should be. The painting you call cheap junk today might hang in a museum tomorrow. But more importantly, the person creating it deserves your respect and support right now. Thank you again for watching. May you always have the courage to follow your passion and the wisdom to support others in following theirs.